So it's the Stony YouTube channel, and it's another exciting evening. This is a really interesting one for me. I've only been with the club a couple of years, and this guy, all I know about him is he's the wag on the side of the pitch that makes funny comments. But apparently, Steve Wharton, you were a little bit of a cricketer back in the day as well.
A long time ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I'd rather watch now and critique, should we say?
I think critique is an interesting way of putting it. Well, we've got the beanie hat of truth with us as ever, which has got some questions in. Before we get onto that, though, how far back do you go with Stony Stratford?
Oh, crikey. So I joined Stony. Youth cricket wasn't the same as it is now. So I joined Stony Stratford at about 12 years old. So I went into the under-13s. So quite a way back, and then moved my way into the under-16s, I think it was then. So that was it. It was under-13s, under-16s, and then you went into adult cricket. I then played for the ones at the age of 15. And then after playing there, I then came down to the twos and even had one game in the thirds, but I don't really talk about that much.
You slummed it in the thirds. Wow. I've been lucky to get in the twos on one or two occasions, so fair play to you on that. So I think we're of a similar vintage, because I remember Colts cricket in the early 90s, and my experience of it wasn't great, because I used to bat 11, bowl 3 or 4 overs, but when all the rich kids turned up again from the grammar schools, I'd get pushed out and I'd hardly play. Was that your experience as well? Although it sounds like you had some ability, so probably not.
No. So, I mean, I at the age of 13, I was playing in the under-13s, but then also playing in the under-16s as well. And I remember the last season in the under-16s, bearing in mind we played 2020 cricket then, my average was, I think, 90. It was like a Donald Bradman job. It was 99 point something. So I was always opening the batting and opening the bowling at junior level, all the way through, really.
So you would have been the guy that I would have cursed. Well, that's how you turn up with your fancy cricket bag.
I never had any fancy kit. That's one thing. Yeah, my mum and dad weren't flush with cash, so I never had any sort of fancy kit at all until senior cricket, really.
So when did you make your debut for the seniors again?
I wouldn't have a clue of a date. I do remember coming on, so I'd be 15 when I played in the ones. I may have played a few games in the twos before that. And I remember coming on to field in one game where the captain came up to me before the game and said, "Oh, Alex Hopper needs to go. He's going to fake an injury at tea, and then can you come on and field?" And this whole process went through and worked perfectly. I came on and fielded, and I ran out a couple of players from the opposition. So I do remember doing that. I was in a green and white jumper. I wasn't even in whites. It was just like they thought, well, this kid can't do much harm, so we'll let him field.
So you had your very own Gary Pratt in the Ashes moment, very early doors.
Yeah, you're not quite the same level, but it was there or thereabouts. But yeah, then I went and played in the ones, and I remember vividly at the age of 15, Neil Bunker, who's one of the best captains that I've played under, he came up to me before the season, was winter nets, and said, "Right," he goes, "We know what a talent you are. You're playing ones cricket. Where do you want to bat and where do you want to bowl?" And me being the arrogant person, I said, "I want to open the batting and I want to open the bowling." And fair play to him, he stuck to his word, and he opened the bat. I opened the bat for the whole of the year, and I probably didn't score more than 30. I got loads and loads and loads of 20s. It was but back then I didn't really know how to build an innings. It was like, all gun ho. And then I opened the bowling. We didn't have any bowling restrictions in terms of like how many overs you could bowl. So I generally got my 15 overs in and worked it up from there.
So you must have been a bit like a kid in a candy store at that point, all that cricket.
I loved it, yeah. I mean, because it wasn't just the Saturday cricket. I played Sunday cricket. And then also back in the day, we had a lot of midweek cricket as well. And that's where I won quite a few trophies and stuff, playing midweek league cricket and midweek cup cricket. And actually that was really, really good playing that sort of cricket. And I remember when we moved from playing in the Milton Keynes leagues in midweek to playing in the county 2020 competition, we absolutely annihilated teams because they didn't have any 2020 cricket going on. We've been playing it, 15 8-ball overs. We've been playing it for years and what we've been brought up on. So, yeah, that was one of the perks of playing locally at Milton Keynes, I'd say.
Shall we delve into the hat and see what's in there?
If we have to.
So, full disclosure, I've spoken to a few colleagues of mine now who would have graced the first team back in the day. You can possibly guess some of the names of these people. I'm hoping they haven't switched you up too much. But here's the first question for you then. And this is, I think I know who this is from. His initials may be GW. Let's just leave it at that. If you had some advice for yourself as a 16-year-old now, what would that be? And as a follow-up to that, is there any chance that 16-year-old would listen to a 40-something Wharton?
There's no chance in the world that 16-year-old would have listened to anything. I think that's what I missed really when I was younger, was a true mentor. And I think that's something that actually is quite paramount in how we go forwards with cricket. It's something that I've approached with the club as well, about creating some sort of EPP, emerging player program. We had one back in the day. But yeah, so me as a 16-year-old, I didn't want to listen to anybody. I always thought I knew best, and that was probably one of my greatest failings. Is purely that I thought I knew best. I thought I was the best there was, and the best there is, and the best there ever will be. And I didn't really have that one single figure to take me to one side and say, right, this is what we need to do. I had lots of people try. But to go back to the first point question, what would I say to 16-year-old me now? Work hard. I did work hard back in the day. I did try as I was going, but it's you get nothing out of this game unless you put a lot into it. Unless you're truly gifted, you need to work hard, and you need to also practice certain scenarios. Practice sessions now are nothing like they used to be. It used to be just a net session. It used to be batting and bowling. There was no fielding or anything like that. And I say, if I was 16 now, the drills that we'd be doing at practice would be so completely different than what we did back in the day.
So if you were good enough for the first team, age 15, did you ever get close to making it in the game? And
Yeah. So, I mean, I played for Buckinghamshire, first 11. And the problem that I had, I was speaking to Steve Bellew about this the other week, where Stony Stratford is situated in North Bucks, we never got a look in with Bucks cricket at my age. We weren't allowed to go into Northants. So Bellew was quite slightly different, is that he managed to get into Northants through a training program, which Rob Bailey did and David Capel. I was actually on that program as well. But he got told, look, can you come into Northants? I didn't. And Bucks never really came this far north. They do now, and they have done for a number of years. But back when I was 13, 14, 15, I didn't have any Bucks cricket in me at all. I just went straight into the first team. And that's a big jump to go from club cricket to straight to playing away at Norfolk, for instance.
Let's see. Let's delve back in again. I like the nervous look on your face and the nervous laugh you make when I pull a question out. What have we got here? Oh. Okay. Has he taken any learnings from his cricket career into setting up and running a successful business?
Ooh, crikey. No, I'd say. The only thing I'll say with work and cricket is I like to try and keep them completely separate. So nobody really down the club knows a great deal of what I do. Sorry?
You're a spy?
No.
You wouldn't be able to tell me if you were. So
yeah.
What do you do? Plug the business?
Oh, no. I sell merchandise items for incentive and loyalty schemes or rewards. So things like iPads, laptops, Fitbits and stuff like that. But not many people know what I do. And, people ask me, I sort of like just brush over it. So I try and keep business and cricket completely separate because I think if you start immersing the two, then you sort of like lose clarity a little bit. And a lot of the cricket club does for me is to actually give me that freedom or that escapism from, as it was back in the day, school or college or work. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I've used any of the cricket stuff and taken it into business at all, to be honest.
Let's go back into the hat and see what else we've got next. Who did you least enjoy playing against? And I don't know if that's a person or maybe a team. You might want to not name the person, perhaps.
No, that's one thing I've never been worried about is naming people. So, in terms of the worst team, okay, so the worst team was Rothwell, and that was just purely, once again, back in the day, the way they played the game. They played it based on fear. So they wouldn't allow you as a batsman to pick up the ball. If you played it, just dropped it in front of you. You went to pick it up to throw it back to the bowler. You would hear this massive great, no, leave it alone. And they played it in the wrong manner. They played it hard, but they played it in completely the wrong manner. So I'd say I never really enjoyed playing against Rothwell. In terms of individuals, who didn't I enjoy playing against? So I reckon there's one batsman that I've never got out, and that was Tim Coleman. So I think he might have played for Northants. I know he definitely played for Bedfordshire. So I always used to open the bowling. He would always open the batting, so he was at find him. And I don't think I ever got him out. So I'd say in terms of cricket-wise, then Timmy Coleman would probably be the one that I didn't enjoy playing against. But just trying to think if there's any others out there that, I had a lot of one-on-one battles with people, let's say.
And I call myself a batsman, but I can't honestly think of many occasions where it's felt like I'd had that sort of, in the face, jousting battle on the pitch, especially with bowlers these days only having to bowl 7 or 8 overs in the third team. So what was that like for you when you went head to head with someone, either with the bat or the ball?
So it depends if I was coming out on top or not, to be fair. That's it can be quite a daunting prospect if somebody's got one up on you. I do know there was one player that I didn't like playing against. That was Billy Pinkcap. So this lad, as he approached the wicket, Sam Willett, who was the keeper, turned around to me because I'd just taken the previous wicket, and he went, "This lad is by far the worst player ever to grace the county league." He came in at and he then proceeded to take 15 off my next 4 balls. So he was a quality player. Sam Willett done me up like a kipper there. But yeah, as a one-on-one, I used to love playing against the likes of Ajaz, Akhtar. We had some big heated battles. Dortmund at Wellingborough. And then Brendan Fury at ON. So there's a couple of one-on-ones in terms of like all-rounders as well.
Okay, let's see what we have next. Oh, it's the reverse of that question. Who did you most enjoy playing against? And that can be a team or it can be an individual as well.
Right, I'll do that. I'll do both again. So Ajaz Akhtar, in terms of an individual, I don't think I'm trying to think now whether he actually got me out. I don't think he ever did. He was one of the leading wicket takers in the county league. And I used to have quite a unique game against him in terms of I would take a guard of one stump outside off stump. So he would actually have a little glimpse of my leg stump because he used to jack the ball back, and trap people LBW. He'd be in the umpire's ears all the time. And so that was my way of combating it. And in terms of that, I would also then let the umpire know that every single ball I've got my leg outside the line, regardless of where it's pitched, etc. So I'd say Ajaz Akhtar was probably one that I enjoy playing against most. In terms of teams, it probably comes down to probably a couple, but I'd say Horton House is probably one that I enjoyed, and that was because we always had really good competitive games against them. The ground over at Horton was brilliant, and I generally did okay against them. But I mean, I'll be honest. There's loads of teams that I enjoy playing against for one reason or for another. It could have been a good reason, or it could have been for a bad reason. But yeah, no, I'd say probably Horton House as a team and Age as an individual.
Who did you get the double ton against then?
Oh, that was Weekly in Walkton.
That's it. So
that story in itself. I mean, I shouldn't have even been open the batting.
Oh.
So I was due to probably come in number 4, but Steve Chipperfield decided that he wasn't going to rock up on time. He opened the batting, and I went out to bat, opened the bat with Ian Lamb. And as Chips was coming round the corner, half an hour late, I was on about 40 odd. I remember I got to my 50 when Ian Lamb got to 4. And one of the things I do remember about that knock quite vividly, out of 203, there was only 2 sixes. I think there was about 44 fours, but only 2 sixes, and they were off the opening bowler purely because he was getting on top of me at one stage. And so I just said to Lammy, that's it, I'm going to have to go after him because I played and missed a couple, and put him back over his head. He was the captain of Weekly. Put him back over his head for 2 sixes, and he brought himself off. And then it became a lot easier after that until the last over. I was on about 194, 95, and the call came from Neil Allen, who was skipper. We're declaring at the end of the over. So, I mean, it was off. So that had been after 43 overs because we batted 44. So I had to somehow get to 200. And I think, I can't remember who I was batting with. I did actually say to them, I'm not running a single or a 3 here. You're not grabbing face. I need to go over the line. So with 1 ball to go, I was on 199, and then managed to sweep the final ball of the innings around the corner. But as everyone will keep telling me, we actually lost the game.
Wow. I mean, I looked that innings up, and what I found incredible was the percentage of runs that you scored, because I think as a team we got about 290. So you're up above Charles Bannerman in the percentage of scoring in that inning. So did you just not let anyone else have a bat and face a ball?
No, not really, because Ian Lamb opened the bat with this, and he takes pride in nicking the strike at the end of every over. But no, it wasn't that. I think we scored about 285. I think it was, or 44 overs. It's just that I was just on it. It was just like everything. It was in August, from what I can remember. The ground isn't a massive ground anyway, and it was like lightning the outfield. Hence the reason why I didn't have to go aerial. I think it was also it was chanceless as well. I didn't get dropped at all. But like I said, there was a guy on the opposition that went and scored 170 odd, which would have been a division record had it not been for what I'd done like a couple of hours earlier.
And was there a point? I mean, obviously, you've got hundreds, quite a few. Looking at it, I think I found at least 7 or 8 on play cricket. I'm sure there's more. But was there a point during that innings when you thought, hang on, this is going to be my day and I'm going to really cash in?
No. I'd say I was really young. It was. Do you know what year it was? Was it?
I can't remember. I think I've got it written down in one of these questions in here, but
I reckon I was about 18, 19. And at 18, I didn't really, look at, I didn't really concentrate that much. I don't think ever 200 was on the cards. I don't know what my highest score was previous to that. It was probably about 120. Because once again, back in those days, you didn't have the time to then go and, because before, if you batted first, you had like 50 overs, but you had to try and go out and declare, because then you had to bowl the teams out in 44 overs. So I don't think ever at the time did I think I was going to go and score a double 100. But it was, it was great to do it, but it's just we couldn't get the result at the same time. When they needed 15. What did they need? They needed 15 off the last over. In fact, they needed 18 off the last 2 overs. I bowled the second from last over and went for 3. And I remember arrogantly turning around to the whole team saying, there you go, I've dug you out of the hole here, and then they scored 15 off the last over. In fact, they needed 5 off the last ball, and Alec Henson decided he was going to bowl a no ball. So they needed 4 off the last ball eventually, but then they still went for 6.
Right, back into the hat. Let's see what we can dig out this time. We've sort of answered this one already, I think, a bit, but we'll go for it as well. How did you feel when you were on it? And you can take that to mean whatever you think, whether with the bat or the ball. Did you recognise those times when it was?
Oh, 100%, 100%. You knew. I mean, you knew when you was the best player out there. That's that. And I saw this quite a lot when I came down into the twos. I came down into the twos with the pure brief of getting them promoted. I think it was from Div 3 to Div 2. I think that's what it was. They had to try and get, and I knew at that stage, most of the times I was entering the field, I was the best player on that pitch. And when you know you've got that one-upmanship over the next person or your opposition, it doesn't half give you the confidence. But then they also go after you a lot more. I had to have so many different, verbal battles with teams and individuals. So you just got to remain on your game as well when you do know that you're on it. Don't give your wicket away, or when you're bowling, don't go trying to bowl too short or too fast, which I did on lots of occasions.
So on the subject of the verbal battles then, and let's keep it clean on this one. Can you remember the best sledge that either you've given or that you've been given to? And how did you react?
So I had a decent interchange with David Capel, actually.
Okay.
I think he was playing for Desborough or Overston or something like that. So, and we'd been going hammer and tongs for a few overs, just with various tit for tat. He then moved somebody out deep square leg, and I knew what was coming, the Yorker. And so as he came into bowl, literally, I just put my front foot forward and flew back. Anyway, he then turned around to me and said, "There's some stuff on the end of your bat." And I said, "Oh, that one." I said, "Oh, the old one's always the best, David, and you're old enough to know them all." The next over was quite rapid, I have to say. But no, I mean, I used to have a little bit of a weird one when it came to banter, in that you couldn't make it personal, otherwise the umpires would get involved. So therefore, you made it completely irrelevant and pointless. And I mean, Belly loves this story. We was at Wellingborough, and they used to put me under the lid at silly mid-wicket just to get into the batsmen's heads. And I decided on this occasion that I would just be a market trader. And so in between every ball, it would be like, "Come on then, lads, £3 of bananas for £1. We'll have a couple of pound on apples there. Do you want this? Love it." And it got to him so much. It got to him so much that I just didn't stop talking. He went over to the umpire and he went, "I haven't paid my match fee to listen to this, individual going." And if you can get into the heads of many a player, just not necessarily by talking about cricket. It could be by anything and anything.
But did you win the game that day?
I can't remember if we won it. I'd have thought so. Wellingborough people.
You'd like to think then that we have one. Right. What do you like most about Stony Stratford as a cricket club? Obviously, you haven't played, I think, since 2014. I might be wrong on that one. There might have been the odd game in between. But presumably in that period, because I've seen you at the ground, you've kept coming back. So what is it that brings you back?
Oh, well, the club is 100% in my blood. It's where I joined as a 12-year-old. I mean, now a lot of the youngsters, they'll join a club, but they'll end up going to university and then playing for other clubs. Stony has always been there. Has been my club. I left for a couple of years to go and try and make it professionally. So I had to play, Stony were playing in Div 2 back then, the first team. So I had to go and play Premier cricket. But as soon as that didn't become a reality, I just came straight back. So in terms of the club itself, I mean, playing for it was brilliant. Watching it is brilliant. My mum and dad, they lived in Stony, so it was always a walk home. And then now I'm coaching, the youngsters. And so it's just always been there. I'm pretty sure that most clubs up and down the country are exactly the same as Stony Stratford for their patrons and for their own players. But for me, I've only ever played for Stony Stratford and Wellingborough OWs. I had half a season at sort of like Horwood just to help them out. But it's always been Stoney for me. And I think as the My Stoney story people have been telling you, there's people that have met wives, wives there, or met friends for life, and that is what it is. If you look at all of my social friends, a lot of it now is from the cricket club, and there's nothing better than getting all my jobs out of the way on a Saturday, doing stuff with the kids, and then getting down there, watching whatever team's down there, and throwing some balls at the youngsters.
I think I've probably played 4 or 5 different cricket clubs, and I would honestly say that it's only been 2 years, but it's the first club that I've played for where I've wanted to do things like join the committee. And I agree with a lot of what you say and what they say on the My Stoney story about how friendly it is, and how I think, you turn up at Stoney and you don't know the first team players necessarily, but they talk to you, and, it feels like, Jamie Baxter's interested in what a guy got in the fourth. And I've not necessarily had that with every club. So it's really good to be here with this. And, I've got a question here, which is about your 200, which obviously we've covered already. And I've got the
what is
1995 for your 200.
Sorry? 95.
So
yeah, I'd have been 19.
Wow, there you go. I've been up to score 203 in a season. Right. Okay, we might have to keep this one clean. Your favourite tour memory?
Oh, right. It's going to be. That's fine. Well, actually, do you know what? No, there's one thing that I love about the tour. So Jeff Parrott used to organise the tour, and I don't think anyone ever really gave him as much credit as he deserved, because to coordinate 25 people, get them on tour, arrange all the fixtures and whatever. But one of the key things about Jeff was he didn't care what you did once you got on tour. You got to the games on time, and then one evening they would have a tour dinner. So you could go and do whatever you wanted the rest of the evenings, but tour dinner was his baby, where a lot of the fine money would pay for the bill and stuff like that. So Jeff, on one tour, he told us all that it's going to be on Thursday. It's going to be this restaurant. Start time is going to be 9:30. That's when tour dinner. You make sure you're there. And obviously, because we're out closed season, a lot of restaurants, to try and take a booking of 25 people was quite hard. And then what myself and Sam Willett decided to do was to ring up that restaurant on the day of the booking and change the numbers, and change it from 25 down to 18. And so by the time we got there, the tables weren't laid because we were the only booking they had. They hadn't ordered enough food because they'd only ordered enough food for us to accommodate it. And Jeff Parrott went absolutely berserk. And then after that, it was just humour. I was just throwing prawn balls at Jeff, Chinese, and his neck was going redder and redder. So I think actually, that's quite a good tour memory. But then another thing was, playing wise, I scored 300s in a row out there, and this annoyed me with Woody's interview with you, because scoring a 200 over in Magaluf doesn't constitute as a 200. Even Mike Smith could have scored 100 over there. I scored 3 in a row and declared each time, or retired each time, to give other people a go. He went on and got a double ton, and then tried to claim it was actually valid.
Well, I got that story from his son, so you can blame him for that one. But he wasn't shy of talking about it, though, was he?
No, I know.
We've done that one. That's about talking to the 16-year-old Steve Wharton. So let's see what we've got next in here. Okay, we've sort of touched on this one a bit as well, but let's go for it anyway. I talked about your comments and your feedback from the sideline, either as a player or when you've been sat there with a pint in your hand. What's the funniest thing you've heard from our crowd down at Osters Lane?
Oh, crikey. Do you know what? I'm so witty that things happen just like that. And actually remembering what I've said is quite difficult. Playing wise, I remember playing a midweek game, and I bowled somebody. We'd appealed for LBW, and the umpire gave him on out. It was plumb, absolutely stone plumb. And as I walked back, I said, "What was wrong with that?" He went, "Oh, it pitched outside off." And as I was walking back, I stopped and went, "What? What do you mean?" And he goes, "He pitched outside off." I went, "Right, so did it hit him in line?" He went, "Yeah." "So was it going to hit the stump?" So, "Yeah." I said, "So it's out?" He went, No, it's pitched outside off." And I literally, I mean, that's not, you can't even make that up when an umpire says things like that. In terms of things I've probably shouted out from the crowd, it's a hard one because I can't remember many because they are all off the tip of the tongue half the time. I remember asking Jamie Baxter if he wanted somebody to field in the high street for him, which got, I'm not sure he heard me, but I shouted that out, and I said that we got somebody in the plough car park and somebody in the ball car park for him.
Cricketing lowlights.
Lowlights. Oh, there's loads of those. So, what do you mean lowlights? And things I regret? Would you say, or?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a bit more on the attempts to become a pro, if you don't mind me asking. Just sort of how did that all go, and how close did it get, and what was the point when you realised that it wasn't going to happen? That's about 9.
The point I realised it wasn't going to happen was away at Norfolk when I nearly died. It was like, bowling was fine. I bowled well and we did okay. Went out to bat and Norfolk's opening bowler was trying to run through us. And I've never faced bowling that fast in my whole entire life. I wouldn't even like to guess how fast it was. It was definitely over 120 miles an hour. But it was at that point where, as Belly would probably tell you, I pulled a heart muscle. Because I think you realise as you go up the levels, whether you can be good enough. But I didn't really give it a chance. I didn't really push myself to try and make it. I played, those couple of games. I thought, no, this isn't for me. So that was a bit of a low life, but a low point. But it wasn't really, because I got up to a level that loads of people couldn't even dream of. Yeah. And then also what it enabled me to do was at the age of around about 22 to then just enjoy my cricket. And that's what I've done since then is then I wasn't trying to make it professionally. I wasn't trying to play level of cricket as possible. I was just trying to do it to enjoy it and have fun. Other low points. I got bowled first ball at Peterborough, lost my middle stump, but it was called a no ball. I then gave the wicketkeeper a little bit of stick, saying, "Oh, that's going to cost you." And then the second ball, I was bowled with my off stump being removed. So I got a bit of a send off from that. Another low point would have been my innings after the 200, almost like the Lord Mayor show, should we say? In that I only scored about 13, and once again they knew I'd scored 200 the week before, and they clapped me all the way off the opposition, all the way off from the middle of the wicket, all the way back. Not just clap, but like, well batted, and gave me a large one. But one other one I'll give you as well, which was a low point, which was when we were playing Isham. I was bowling. We were just about to bowl them out. Number 11 came in. Steve Underdown walked up to me and said, "Right, just finish it off, Wharton. Just get him out." Now, to be fair to me, he didn't actually specify what get him out meant. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I came in and bowled this lad a bouncer, and it cannoned off the top of his head. He didn't have a helmet on, cannoned off the top of his head and flew down for 4. But the reason why I bring that up, because they had a really fast ex-pro, John Hughes, that played for them. And as we walked off, he kindly just whispered to me, he goes, "You're going to regret that." And he came on and he bowled at the speed of light. We managed to get the runs, but I got caught off my inner chest, and Steve Betty broke his hand from this bowler, so that was probably another low point as well. One that could have been avoided.
Sounds like the Devon Malcolm incident from that South Africa game all those years ago. You guys are history. So
yes.
This is a weird question to ask, maybe, but I think I've been lucky in my and I use the phrase exceedingly loosely, cricket career, that I've never really faced anyone quick. So what's that like when you're out there and you're almost fearing for your life because the ball's coming down so quick?
Scary. It's scary. And I'll go back to that Norfolk game. I went out there, the first ball literally whizzed past me. Now, normally I've had a lot of quick balls bowled at me, but I could just sway out of the way quite comfortably. This one, it wasn't just a sway; it was a jerk out of the way, and I fell onto the floor because the jerk was so extravagant. And at that point, you're thinking, crikey, I only just got out of the way of that. I'm pretty sure I'd have got away out of every other ball that come down. But in the back of your head, it was like, crikey, that's taking me out of my comfort zone. That could have hit me. And if that hits me, that's going to hurt. And it's how you combat that. I mean, I've seen so many cricketers in juniors as well that are scared of the ball. You've got to get out. You've got to get away from that. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. But yeah, when it's genuinely too fast for you to deal with, or you think it's too fast for you to get out of the way of, then you start worrying for your own safety.
So on the topic of your coaching at Stoney, I mean, remind us who you coach and what you enjoy most about doing it.
So I never thought I'd enjoy coaching like I did. I mean, I've loved playing, but so I coached the under-13 B team, but I've done those for the last 3-4 years. And I now also coach the under-10s with Simo. Both of my boys play in those teams, and that's the reason. And I have to say, the coaching thing has been brilliant, but it's been massively helped with George Woods. George Woods is the lead coach for the under-13s, and he's done it for the last 3-4 years as well. And actually, to learn from him has been brilliant. But do you know what? When you see kids turning up on time, smile on their face, absolutely loving it, you can't not enjoy coaching youngsters. It's so rewarding, and then seeing them then take it out into game scenarios as well. And they always come with a story to tell. They always come with a story to tell. And some the stories are I've been catching against a brick wall. I've been hitting a tennis ball. I've been smashing my kid brother all over the place. It's just heartwarming. And then they all come up to you at the end of the session. Thank you as well. Makes it all worthwhile.
Got a couple more from the hat before we're done. This one, I believe, has probably come from either a Gulliver or, let's say, a Belly, I think. Given you're such a talented sportsman, how do you explain being the worst pool player in your family?
Have a word. So I'm not. So I've got a younger brother who's, I think he plays county level, and he's had England trials. However, you're only good as your last game, and I beat him on my last game. What this is all referring to and all coming back to is a tour pool competition where Philly Warts, my older brother, who's got no sporting ability whatsoever, managed to somehow beat me 2-1 in, I think it was the quarterfinals. But it's just a complete misapprehension. I mean, it pains me. It really does, because he will never play me again, because that's the problem. He beat me, but I've never had a send-off like that. I've had plenty of send-offs in cricket. I've never had a send-off after that pool game. I literally went home to my hotel room about 10:30 in the evening. Bear in mind, tour night outs lasted until 5. I went home at 10:30 that day in disgrace after losing to him.
I've got one more from the hat, and I'll be honest, last season was a weird season, I think, for everyone, but I really enjoyed playing in the threes, playing with Belly, playing with Gully, playing with Woody, and I think the best thing for me was after we won the playoff, sitting there, socially distanced afterwards, and hearing the banter from those three in particular. So I've got the third team banter with them. What were they like to play with, and all the other guys that you played with over the years, in the peak? What was that all about?
What were they like to play in their peak? Well, Gully, I never played with Gully when he was in his peak, because he peaked on the 27th of July 1927. So I never played with him at his peak. And once again, I refer to him as, he's never scored a league ton. And this is where I am, is that I reckon, let's say there's 100 people in the club, 99% of people will want Stuart Gulliver to score a league ton.
Yeah,
I'm not that. I'm not. I don't want that. Do not want that in the slightest because he's got this hanging over him and I can use it. But no, Gully in his peak, he was okay. He wasn't brilliant. He had a weird bowling action, as you may have seen.
Yeah, although I can't talk about that.
Yeah. He was okay. He was just Gulliver was a nothing player. He was just a good team player, but he never won games for you. Woody, if I ever bowled at Woody, I would literally be pulling my hair out because he's very I'm trying to think what the word is. I don't know what the word is, but yeah, without being, but like you'd play and miss, and he'd be like, "Oh, well bowled, yeah. Or just wind the living daylights out of me." And who was the other one that you mentioned? I can't remember his name.
Oh, from Jack called Belly.
Oh, I played with
so left arm.
So Belly was a decent player. And in fact, I've got Belly, to come down and do some of the bowling coaching with the youngsters. And there's a little story for you as well. So I asked Belly to come do some bowling coaching, and so I got them all behind the net. I said, right, Belly's just going to come and bowl. And I was hoping and praying that he would spray it wide. He took middle stump out first ball, and a little lad just went, "Oh, we don't have to face him, do we?" I was like, "No, that's fine." But no, playing with all of those when they're in their prime it wasn't a privilege. They were privileged to play with me, but it was good because we all knew that we were at the top of our games, and we all knew that we had a job to do, and we all knew that if one of us didn't do it, then the other one would pick it up. But it wasn't just those two either; it was the whole squad. Even going down to like some wicket keeping Sam Willett and unders, all of them did a job. And in that league winning side, that was just a phenomenal effort for us because we've been at it for probably about 4 years. We tried finishing second or third, but actually at that point we managed to finish first. So no, it was good. It was great to play with all those guys.
Well, it's been a pleasure to chat to you tonight and find out a little bit more about the man behind the banter. And one final thing, then, if you had some final words of inspiration, maybe for the summer or just maybe for what you hope to get from the next 15, 20 years of sitting with your pint at Ostlers Lane, watching us all play, what would it be?
So in terms of the first team, keep up the team spirit. So that's what I've seen come back into the first team in the last couple of years, especially last year. Seeing that little huddle, drinking a beer, that is something that we did as a championship winning side. Every week we'd go for a curry down to the Bcash, and there'd be 20 of us, 25 of us. Keep that team spirit because that gets you through a lot of games. For players that are thinking about, playing elsewhere, because I know that a couple have, try and do it, with our club. I understand playing at certain levels, but like I said to you, as soon as I realised I wasn't going to make it professionally, I then came back to the club that was at my heart, and it bodes well for that. In terms of the other teams, second team, I didn't really watch a great deal of the second team, but the only thing I'd say I'd like to see is giving the youngsters a go and having belief, and that's what I saw in the thirds actually. When I saw that final. Down in the thirds, there was a young lad. I think his name was Charlie. And so I'd not seen him at all the year, but he took that innings, did really really well. The only downside to that innings was once he got past 50, he then tried to then go aerial, and he didn't need to do that. So I'd say that I want the club to really push on the youngsters because they've got such a good youth policy going down there. We actually want to see these ones now going through into senior cricket, but then also just treat the club as your hub. Really do that. I mean, I'm lucky that I've always lived in or around Stony Cricket Club, so I can have a few beers and leave my car down there and go. In fact, there we go. There's another story. Dion. So you mentioned Dion. So I had a few beers and I left my car down there on a Saturday, and I'd done something to Dion. I can't remember what I'd done to him. I've done something wrong. And he then went and got the big pot of jam out of the kitchen and smothered my car in jam. Now, it was a bank holiday weekend in August. I then didn't actually go back to my car until the Monday. So it was there, baked, all this jam was baked on my car and I took it down to the car wash and they overcharged me, should we say, because they couldn't literally get this jam off. But no, just keep the club as a club. Don't worry too much about the standard of cricket that they're playing at. It's not overly important because more comes down to if you're enjoying it. And if you enjoy it, then you'll get as much as I did out of the game.
Like us, follow us, watch us. It's Stony Stratford Cricket Club.